Do you ever find yourself wrestling with thoughts that just won't leave you alone? Thoughts of worry, maybe inadequacy, or just that kind of persistent negative noise inside? We've all been there,
Yeah.
caught in that inner monologue that feels, well, impossible to silence sometimes. So here's a question for you to maybe ponder as we start our conversation today. What recurring thought do you need to take captive and replace with God's liberating truth today? That question, it really stops me in my tracks sometimes. Because it's so true, isn't it? How much of our internal world is shaped by thoughts nobody else even sees? Our greatest spiritual battles, and honestly, some of our most exhausting daily struggles, they often happen right there, in that hidden space, our minds.
It's absolutely fascinating how much power our thoughts actually hold. It
Hmm.
really is. The mind truly is a battlefield. And not just because of, external pressures bombarding us. It's where these internal narratives, often rooted in deep wounds or past stuff, or even just what society tells us, it's where they constantly compete with those foundational liberating truths. This makes it such a uniquely personal and, yeah, often unseen struggle for clarity
Mm.
and ultimately for peace, real peace.
And it really is this constant arena, isn't it? This internal space where
Yeah.
ideas clash, where beliefs are formed, and where our emotional, our spiritual well being can be so profoundly impacted just by the sheer volume and the nature of the thoughts vying for our attention. It genuinely shapes our perspective on, well, everything, our relationships, what we think we're capable of.
You're exactly right. And this isn't just like a casual skirmish now and then. It's a continuous dynamic war, something that needs to be actively engaged in really every single day. The battle inside involves that vital work of distinguishing between thoughts that are truly helpful, life-giving, aligned with truth, and those thoughts that are destructive, harmful, or sometimes just outright lies. And that demands, well, it demands an incredible amount of discernment and real intentionality from us.
That's why the call to action we've been exploring feels so pivotal, so important. We aren't meant to just be passive thinkers, right? Simply letting thoughts wash over us and dictate how we feel. No, instead, we're called to be active captors of our thoughts. And this isn't about denying reality or, suppressing difficult emotions, not at all. It's about taking a proactive and empowered approach to finding mental and spiritual clarity in our actual daily lives.
And this active engagement, it's guided by such a powerful foundational principle. The command to, quote, demolish arguments and every pretension that sets itself up against the knowledge of God, and we take captive every thought to make it obedient to Christ. What's fascinating here, I think, is that this isn't just some vague suggestion for positive thinking, not by a long shot. It's a profound mandate to actively dismantle entire thought structures, those arguments and pretensions he talks about, the ones that subtly, or maybe not so subtly, challenge the very character of God or his revealed truth about who we are. So this might look like questioning that whole societal narrative that says our worth is tied to our achievements, or confronting that subtle lie that maybe God's love is somehow conditional on us being perfect, which it isn't. It's really about ensuring our inner world aligns with the ultimate authority, with truth.
That powerful mandate to take captive every thought. Wow, it almost sounds like a superpower, doesn't it? But I mean, how do we even begin to activate that in our daily reality? It can feel pretty overwhelming when those thoughts are just so relentless sometimes.
That's a really crucial question. And the first step, it's always self-awareness, but maybe deeper than just recognizing thoughts. It's about identifying those harmful patterns, the ones that often disguise themselves as like logical concerns or even protective instincts. These are often the thoughts that stem directly from fear, maybe from deep-seated insecurity, or from those old lies we've just never truly confronted and brought into the light. And this definitely includes those insidious feelings of comparison. Social media often fuels that, right? And that heavy weight of shame that can try to define us. I think the trick is to observe how they make you feel. Do they lead you towards peace or towards anxiety? Do they empower you or do they paralyze you?
Ah, okay. So that recognition is crucial then, because it gives us a target, right? It turns this vague sense of unease into something we can actually actively address. And, it's one thing to understand this intellectually, but I was so struck by some of the real life applications we've learned about. They really bring these ideas to life.
Oh, absolutely. We've seen some really powerful transformations unfold. Take, for instance, a college student
Hmm.
in Arizona. She described how she found herself spiraling with anxiety every single time she opened social media. Her mind was just constantly caught in these cycles of comparison and fear, always feeling like she wasn't measuring up. It was just this relentless noise in her head, you know, threatening to drown out everything else.
Wow. That's a struggle I think so many people can relate to today, isn't it? That constant bombardment of like curated perfection online. So what did she do when she was faced with that kind of internal noise?
Well, instead of just letting those thoughts define her reality, she made a conscious choice. She chose to replace that noise with truth. She started posting scripture-based affirmations on her bathroom mirror, actual verses, daily reminders of God's unchanging truth, right where she'd see them every morning. And she also intentionally took what she called social media fasts, just stepping away from the source of her anxiety. Her testimony is really powerful. She said, "It changed my mind and my heart." So this wasn't just, a mental trick. It was a profound transformation of her inner being. It really shows how active discipline can literally start to rewire our internal landscape.
That's remarkable, truly. And it's not just students facing this. Consider the case of a business executive. In Illinois, after losing a major client, he started battling these relentless, intrusive thoughts of failure, just couldn't shake them. And shame began to creep in, trying to define his whole identity based on this one setback. These thoughts were just overwhelming him, trying to convince him he was inadequate, that he'd lost everything.
Right. But instead of succumbing to that shame, he took a really powerful proactive step. Every single morning during his routine, he began speaking Philippians 4:13 aloud,
Mm.
vocalizing it. He spoke this truth: I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me.
Mhm.
And he acknowledged, he said, I couldn't control every outcome, but I could choose what I focused on. Now, this wasn't about denying his feelings, not at all. It was about actively choosing a different higher truth to anchor his mind. And this consistent practice, day after day, it led to a significant, really tangible shift in his mindset. And remarkably, an increase in his peace. The internal battle actually started to turn in his favor.
These stories, they highlight more than just belief, don't they? They show the incredible power of consistent, active spiritual discipline in literally rewiring our internal landscape, much like forming any new habit, really, but infused with divine power. Winning this inner battle, it isn't about ignoring negative thoughts or pretending they don't exist. It's about courageously confronting them with God's truth. And in doing that, making the necessary space for peace to actually dwell in our minds. It's an active process, not passive. It truly requires us to engage.
And that active approach is precisely why this is so crucial, so vital. God doesn't call us to be passive thinkers, does he? Just letting whatever drifts into our minds take root. No, he calls us to be active captors of our thoughts. And this requires intentional effort. It requires discipline and a daily commitment to shaping our internal world, understanding that we actually have agency over our internal narratives. We have a choice.
Okay, so how can you apply this in your own life right now? What are some practical steps you can take to cultivate a mind of peace starting today? The first one we talked about is recognizing harmful patterns. We've mentioned fear and insecurity, but how do we spot those really insidious thoughts? The subtle ones that chip away at us.
Yeah, that's key. Because often they come disguised, don't they, as rational concern or maybe realistic expectation.
Yeah.
The trick isn't just seeing the obvious, blatant lies. It's discerning the subtle ones, the ones that masquerade as truth or even wisdom. Again, observe how they made you feel. Do they lead you towards peace, empowerment, and freedom? Or do they lead to anxiety, paralysis, and shame? That feeling is often a good indicator.
That makes so much sense, that feeling test. So once we've recognized them, what's step two? Second, resisting lies. This is about actively choosing not to believe everything you think. Just because a thought pops into your mind doesn't automatically make it true, especially if it contradicts a deeper divine truth. You have the power to challenge it, to say no to it.
Absolutely. And this isn't just about, positive self-talk. It's deeper. It's about discerning what is truly of God. You are literally engaging in a kind of mental confrontation where you refuse to give mental real estate, mental space to what you know is false. Even if it feels really compelling in the moment, it's actually an act of spiritual defiance against the lies that try to imprison us.
Okay. So we recognize we resist. What's next in this active approach? Third, confronting negative thoughts. Like we've been saying, this isn't about ignoring them, pushing them down. It's about directly addressing them with truth. So when a thought of failure comes knocking, don't just suppress it. Speak God's promises over it. When comparison creeps in, declare your unique worth in Christ.
Yes, exactly. And this confrontation, it needs to be specific. That's important. If the lie is, you're not enough, the truth isn't just some vague positive thought like, I'm okay. No, it's remembering that you are intricately designed, deeply loved, chosen. Specific truths. If the lie is, you're a failure, the truth is that God's grace covers your shortcomings, and his strength is made perfect in your weakness. It's a targeted, intentional declaration of what is actually true according to God.
That's a crucial distinction, not just a blanket statement,
Yeah.
but a specific, targeted application of truth. And that leads directly into our fourth strategy, which feels really central. Fourth, and vitally important, is replacing with God's promises. You need to deliberately, intentionally fill your mind with truth. This can be through practices like speaking verses aloud, just like that executive did with Philippians 4.13, or maybe engaging consistently with daily devotionals that immerse you in God's unwavering word.
This is where we actively create new, healthy pathways in our minds. Neurologically even, some might say. It's not enough just to empty out the negative thoughts. We must fill that space. Fill it with the life-giving truth of God's character, His promises for you, your identity in Him. This consistent, intentional input of truth, it really does begin to rewire your brain for peace, for alignment with divine reality.
And finally, a practical step that, well, sometimes gets overlooked in all this internal work, limiting negative input. This is just practical wisdom, really, spiritual self-care. Reduce your exposure to sources that consistently fuel those harmful thought patterns, whether that's certain social media feeds, maybe news channels that just ramp up anxiety, or even conversations that consistently seem to bring you down. The Arizona Students' Social Media Fests are such a perfect example of this. Protecting your mental space is vital.
And all these steps, they really converge on the profound power of choice that we possess. You truly don't have to believe everything you think. Let that sink in, especially when God's word speaks something better, something truer, something far more liberating about you and your situation. This empowers you right now to discern and actively reject thoughts that don't align with God's truth, and instead to embrace what is life-giving. It can transform your internal world.
Engaging in this internal battle, applying these strategies, it all guides us towards, well, an ultimate transformative outcome. It's not just about managing thoughts day to day. It's about a complete renewal that really changes everything.
Yes, exactly. The ultimate goal and the profound outcome of renewing your mind in this way, it's spiritual clarity. It's a deep, unshakable sense of freedom and an abiding peace that actually transcends circumstances. By intentionally aligning your thoughts with God's truth day by day, you can shift your entire mindset, your entire outlook. And this leads to profound, tangible change in your mental health, your emotional well-being. It allows you to truly walk in truth and escape the pervasive control of fear, the heavy burden of insecurity, the chains of shame that so often hold us back. It's about becoming truly free in your own mind, living from a place of unburdened authenticity.
What a powerful journey that is, isn't it? Actively managing our thoughts. It truly is the path to internal peace and profound freedom. And it's not a one-time event, is it? It's an ongoing journey, a transformation process. It's about consciously cultivating a mind that reflects God's truth, making tangible space for His peace, and walking in genuine clarity day by day.
It really is. It's a daily invitation, an opportunity every day to choose what you focus on, to engage with the truth that sets you free, and to live in the liberating reality that, no, you don't have to believe every single thought that enters your mind. The victory over those unseen battles, it is available to you right now.
So as you go about your day today, maybe let's just revisit that question we started with and truly lean into it for a moment. What recurring thought do you need to take captive and replace with God's truth today?